morning started like any other. The sun was just peeking over the trees, casting long golden beams across our backyard. My wife was kneeling in the garden, her hands covered in soil, planting bright red flowers she had picked up at the nursery. She loved moments like this, the quiet, the fresh air, the sense of making something beautiful out of the earth. For me, it was another Saturday of fixing things around the house, replacing a squeaky hinge, trimming the hedges, repairing the fence. We had worked hard for this home, and though the neighborhood wasn't perfect, it was ours. The one thing that made life difficult was the HOA. They were relentless, always nitpicking, always trying to flex control over things that weren't theirs to control. And at the center of it all was Karen, the HOA president. That morning, she marched down the sidewalk, clipboard tucked under her arm like it was a royal decree. She stopped in front of our yard, looked at the freshly planted flowers, and shook her head in disgust. "Those aren't on the approved list," she said sharply, pointing at the flower bed. "You'll need to remove them immediately or face fines." My wife looked up calmly, brushing her hands on her jeans. "These flowers aren't harming anyone." "They're staying," Karen's face reddened. "You don't get to decide that." The HOA decides. I saw the tension in my wife's jaw, but she didn't raise her voice. "This is my home, my property. I've sworn my life to protecting people's rights, and I won't let you bully me out of mine." Karen's lips curled into a smirk. "We'll see about that." And she stormed off, already dialing her phone. An hour later, the peace of the neighborhood was shattered by flashing lights and the wail of sirens. 3 police cruisers pulled up in front of our house. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains and stepped out onto porches. Karen strutted behind the officers as if she had summoned an army. "There she is," Karen shouted, pointing at my wife. "Arrest her for violating HOA rules. She's refusing compliance and disturbing the peace." The officers looked unsure but moved forward, following procedure. The lead officer approached my wife. "Ma'am, we received a call about a disturbance involving HOA violations. We need to ask you some questions." My wife stood slowly, her posture steady. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her badge. She held it up for them to see. The effect was immediate. The air shifted. The officers froze, their expressions flipping from suspicion to shock and respect. "My name is Sheriff Maria Rodriguez," she said firmly, her voice carrying authority, "and you've been called here under false pretenses. This is my property, my home, and I have broken no law." The officers glanced at each other. The lead officer straightened and gave a respectful nod. "Sheriff, we apologize." "We didn't realize." Karen's face twisted in disbelief. "She's lying. That badge is fake. She can't be the sheriff." But the officers ignored her. They knew the truth. One of them stepped toward Karen, his patience gone. "Ma'am, calling 911 for false reports is a serious crime. Do you understand what you've done?" Karen's smug confidence melted into panic. She sputtered excuses, but no one was listening. By now, neighbors had gathered, watching with wide eyes. Some had their phones out, recording the scene. For years, Karen had ruled the neighborhood through intimidation, but now everyone was witnessing her downfall in real time. My wife didn't raise her voice. She didn't boast. She simply turned to Karen and said, "Real authority isn't about control. It's about service, integrity, and protecting people. You've abused your neighbors for far too long." The officers escorted Karen away, her shrill protests echoing uselessly through the street. The neighbors clapped quietly, nodding in solidarity. For the first time, people seemed free of the grip she had held over them. In the days that followed, the HOA board faced immense backlash. Residents demanded change, and Karen was removed from her position. Without her constant harassment, the community began to heal. People started planting what they wanted, painting their shutters the colors they liked, and living without fear of fines. As for my wife, she never bragged about what happened. She returned to her garden the very next morning, planting the rest of her flowers as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. The neighborhood had seen her for who she truly was. Not just a neighbor, not just a homeowner, but a protector. That night, as we sat on the porch, I looked at her with pride. "You didn't just defend yourself," I said. "You defended all of us." She smiled softly. "Sometimes people mistake kindness for weakness. But when it's time to stand up, you can't hesitate. Bullies only win when good people stay silent. And from that day on, no one in our neighborhood ever stayed silent again. The HOA thought they could use fear. What they didn't realize was that fear crumbles in the presence of courage. And courage is exactly what my wife had in abundance.